President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday told the Apex Bank not to give a cent to anybody to import food into the country, with hopes that there would be steady improvement in agricultural production and attainment of full food security. The president further said some states like Kebbi, Ogun, Lagos, Jigawa, Ebonyi and Kano had already taken advantage of the federal government's policy on agriculture with huge returns in rice farming. I have in the studio with me Yinka Ademuwagun from United Capital, who would be addressing this particular issue with us. Thank you very much for joining me.
Good afternoon.
All right. Regarding the president's directive, what is your thoughts? What would be the implication on the agricultural output moving forward?
So yeah, when we heard this news, it was after we returned from the Salah holiday, and the initial reaction was, this is the current narrative that the CBN has been doing. If you remember, we had a 41 item that have been banned, excluded from FX, and recently CBN was mulling including milk into that category also. Now President Buhari is talking about the old food classification. So the initial reaction is more like, this is a continuation of the narrative we've been saying in the past. But the question is, how impactful is this policies that we've been talking about? We don't think it's going to be quite impactful on FX, because looking at the total imports in terms of food or agricultural products, it's only constitutes about 6% of our imports. So the majority of our imports is oil, which refined oil. Then we also import manufactured goods, about 60% of the import. So if you're talking about excluding all the food, and you're talking about food security, so it's actually not gelling together. So that's our own initial reaction to this news.
All right, but then let's take a look at some of the companies we have here in Nigeria need agricultural produce for whatever they are producing, right? Do you think this would bring about more backward integration, and then, rather than importing these things, they start to produce here?
So before now, the narrative from the CBN and the federal government is they want to promote agriculture. And most of those firms, after getting their hands burnt back in 2016, 2017, as a result of the devaluation, the recession, so they've been that narrative where all the consumer goods firms are doing the backward integration. They are establishing what's called agricultural plantations here in Nigeria. So it's not going to actually stimulate, but it's good, it's positive for them. Probably it's a good incentive for them, but for the overall economy at large, we don't think this is the way to go.
Do we see this boosting our FX in any way?
As I said earlier, this is just constituting about 6%. So if you look at the numbers, it's about $600 million. Our reserve is about $44.5 billion. So that's kind of marginal. So the impact is not going to be that huge as it's been muted all around. But the problem there is, can we stop importation of food? Is absolutely no, because what this is going to encourage is smuggling. Because here we've been mulling the fact that rice with the policy is actually right. But yeah, if you look at the data, if you look at Benin, if you look at Togo, why importation decreased in Nigeria, it's increased over there, and they've been smuggling it into the country. So this will probably promote smuggling, and if smuggling increases, then you're likely going to see pressure on food prices. Inflation was released today, so you'll probably see all of this happening all around. Like, it will add pressures to food prices. So basically.
Yeah, and then you did mention something about inflation reports, which was just released today. We saw that in terms of the consumer price index, the inflation increased by just 11.08% year-on-year in July 2019, which is 0.14% lower when juxtaposed with the results in June 2019. Did this meet analysts' expectation?
Yeah, so from our own perspective, this is in line with expectation. We expected inflation rate to moderate because there was no pressure for food, no pressure on the core inflation. Stability happens to be. So that was the same narrative that we saw after the report was published today. So food inflation actually was the stimulant, because we saw it decline by about 13 basis points majorly. So this was due to the lack of pressure in that particular space. But now that we're entering into the plant harvest season for the agriculture, the pressure points, probably that's a positive point for food inflation going forward. But the pressure point is the festive season that we add during August, and there was a rise in demand for goats, for cow, for food, so that will probably add some pressure to inflation. So in terms of outlook for August, in terms for inflation, so we are seeing a marginal drop also in August by 4 basis points in inflation rates, and this is due to the fact that we're now entering into the harvest season, and this will boost supply, though there was an upsurge in demand early in the month, but later in the month we expect the upsurge in supply to offset that.
All right, we'll hold on with your thoughts for a bit. Okay. We'll take a quick break now. You're still watching News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Thank you for staying with us. I've been speaking with Yinka Ademuwagun of United Capital. Yes, moving forward, we also saw the food sub-index. It decreased by 13.39% year-on-year from 13.56%. How does this align with the President's directive? Yeah,
as I said earlier, I was making mention of the fact that while importation of most of the banned items that the CBN has earlier banned from assessing FS, we've seen rise in imports in neighboring countries. And given our porous border, they've been surge in smuggling into the country in order to satisfy the massive demand. Don't forget, our population is increasing at a rapid pace, so we need to satisfy that demand. So most of the demand are being satisfied by smuggling. So what this means, don't forget, we also did African Continental Free Trade Agreement, where we have agreed to open on 90% of our economy to other African nations. Now, with this, factoring all of this together, it means it becomes easier for our goods to even legally, now not even smuggling, legally enter into our economy via neighboring countries. So which would increase the food prices. It will kind of add pressure to food inflation at the moment. So this directive does not align well with the narrative that we have at the moment. The narrative we have at the moment is moderation in food inflation due to no pressure, but this will probably, if this is implemented by the CBN, it will probably add pressure to the food inflation sub-index. All right, so to wrap this up, what percentage would you say at least this directive would help in terms of food production? So in terms of food production, if I'm to put percentage to it, I'll say it is marginal. It's quite marginal, because this will probably add like 3% or 4%. So basically, the major thing is oil for us, because we keep importing refined oil. Now we have been looking to Dangote refinery to help the economy in terms of. So if that comes online, then we will see a drastic drop in our importation of refined oils. So basically, that's what the government needs to do at the moment. The government needs to align the policy directly, create structural infrastructures, reforms to make doing business in Nigeria plausible. So those are the things we feel the government should concentrate more on at the moment. All right. Thank you very much for joining me in the studio. Thank you.